Yo, what's up with it, do YouTube? It's the boy Jameson, and I'm back with another video. And this title, "The Downward Spiral of Orlando Brown." I heard a lot about Orlando Brown. You know what he's been through over the years, and I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty sad because I grew up watching Disney Channel. Okay, so I grew up watching Hannah Montana, That's So Raven, okay, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, Liz McGuire, all that stuff, and just last year when I had got Disney Plus, I streamed That's So Raven, because like the nostalgia, because I didn't remember some episodes when I was younger, so I'm just like, okay, I'm older now, so why not watch it? And watching the show was funny as hell, and I think my favorite character in the show was Eddie. He was like that comic relief character that always brought like energy to the show when it mattered the most, and he was just like he always had good spirits and good energy. And just to hear this about him, to hear everything that he's been through, like when he was hooked on drugs, when he kept getting arrested, showing up for court, that stuff was sad because this dude was a part of my childhood for a little bit from what I can remember. And then when I rewatched it again just last year, this dude was funny, and it's like it sucks that his life turned out the way it has been. So we're gonna watch this video from Patrick CC, and let's see what he's talking about. Damn.
Y'all see that little white ass baby with that? All my kids look like me, goddammit.
Damn.
I know the strength of my calm. How dare you try to kill me? I got to have
This dude was going through it.
It was one handicap issue. And it's like, come on, man. Stop trying to make me look unsmart.
This is what can happen when a child works a full-time job from age 8, making all kinds of money that is being mismanaged or potentially stolen, on top of experiencing all kinds of dark things that go on behind the scenes out of the public view. Stay hydrated. Orlando Brown was a funny child.
He was.
And had an infectious personality. Growing up in Los Angeles, California, his parents knew it was possible to get their child into acting. His godfather knew of a young talent management agency, and after a few auditions, he landed his first role as Tiger in the movie Major Payne.
I remember that. I remember when I first saw the movie. This movie was funny as hell, and just look how young Orlando Brown was. Just an innocent looking kid, man. And I was about to touch on that. It's just like when you're a child actor, it's like your whole life you're basically pretending to be a character, and so like your whole childhood you got to study lines. You got to be on set, for like a certain amount of hours a day, so you don't have that luxury of having a typical childhood like other kids your age, because it's like when you have to be another character for a certain amount of years at an early age, that stuff takes a lot on you. So it's like when you get older and you finally get that free time, when you finally get an opportunity to get that free time that you didn't have when you were a kid, you end up doing stupid things, like, for example, Orlando Brown getting hooked on drugs, going on these social media platforms, these interviews, just saying random things, being homeless, drinking, being in and out of rehab, being in and out of jail. So it's like being a child actor, it could be tough for some people. It could be tough for some of these celebrities growing older. And I'm not saying that every childhood actor is like this, because like the Sprouse brothers, they turned out well for themselves, but not everybody's like them. When people have different ways of getting older, and we see this with Orlando Brown. He was, just funny character every time when he was on TV, but we never knew what was going on behind the scenes. Probably behind the scenes he was stressed out, but we didn't look at it like that because we were always so focused on what we saw on screen. He always brought energy and comic relief to the show, but we never really understood what he was going through, behind the scenes. And so it's just like when you're always asked to portray yourself to be, a certain person, and you never get a chance to, have fun and enjoy your childhood years, that is what makes these childhood stars, be crazy when they get older, because they didn't have that luxury to do so, because all they were doing was forcing themselves to be a different character and working long hours on set, and they never had any friends.
The movie movie wasn't wildly successful, but it is a classic 90s family film with
It
great
is.
jokes and a heartwarming ending. I personally love this movie. Acting alongside Damon Wayans and Karen Parsons was a huge resume builder, especially for his first film.
Oh yeah. This did boost up Orlando Brown's career, working with the girl who played Hillary in Fresh Prince, and working with Damon Wayans. Oh yeah, we for sure that he was gonna get some more roles in TV and movies.
Here, he became a go-to in Hollywood for a funny, adorable child role. From 1995 to 2000, Orlando had 17 different TV roles.
Damn.
Family Matters, The Jamie Foxx Show, Safe Harbor, and Two of a Kind were his biggest gigs. From age 8 to 13, Orlando was working harder than I probably ever have in my whole life. But in the 2000s, he didn't slow down. He would land a huge role on the Disney Channel alongside Raven Simone.
One of my favorite childhood
He was a very
shows.
Successful child star. She and Orlando both acted alongside Damon Wayans. They were both on popular sitcoms. They were both go-to child stars for family-friendly shows, films, and cartoons. They interconnected with all the same.
See, that just sounds like a coincidence. You know, Raven Simone, she was working with big names, and Orlando Brown was working with big names, and boom. You know, you got two successful child actors on the same show. You can't tell me that's not going to be good.
People in Hollywood for a few years now, so it only made sense to give them a show together.
Mhm.
That's So Raven. The idea was created by Michael Poirier, creator of Hannah Montana, as well as produced by David Brookwell and Sean McNamara, who
Okay.
created Even Stevens. The show was bound for success.
Oh yeah. You know, we know. Yeah, basically, hearing these guys who created other successful. Basically, hearing these guys that created other successful shows, oh yeah, it was just right that, you know, these guys they made other shows that became successful. Of course, when they made That's So Raven, it was going to be successful because look at their track record. Hannah Montana was a success. Even Stevens was a success. You know, so the track record speaks for itself. And That's So Raven, me watching it now when I got older, the show was kind of, you know, like nonsensical. You know, that I didn't get to understand when I was a kid, but now when I rewatch, I'm like, the show was good, but it was kind of, you know, like it was kind of stupid at the same. It was kind of stupid at the same time because sometimes I just realized now with Raven, her visions never came true. The reason why her visions will come true was because she will make it that way. You know, so it's just like she never really stopped to think that. Oh, listen, she never really stopped to think if her vision was going to be true or not. She never wanted to, like stand back. She always wanted to try to be the hero, but every time the reason why her visions would go bad would be because she made it go bad, because she just assumed based off of what she saw. But Raven Simone didn't have that mindset that, oh, you know, I shouldn't go based off my visions because what if it's not true? She never thought about that. She always just thought she was right all the time, but she wasn't. But still a good show though. Still a good show. But when I rewatched it, I kind of understood that her visions were never true. They would just be true, and they would be a certain way, whether if it's good or bad, because she made it that way.
Psychic high school student that allows her to see visions of the future. Often the plot revolves around Raven trying to prevent this vision from happening because she didn't like the outcome.
Yeah.
Usually she miscalculates the events, which gets her friends, or family into even more trouble.
Yeah.
Raven's two best friends, Chelsea and Eddie, are the only ones that know about her abilities and act as her confidants throughout the show. Eddie, played by Orlando Brown, is the athletic, overconfident, aspiring rapper.
Believe me, you ain't never heard a young man that can blaze the track quicker than this cat that can draw behind his back.
Chelsea, played by Annalise Vanderpool, is the dumb blonde stereotype best friend. The show was known for
I hated Chelsea with a passion. She was dumb as hell.
And integrated music. Raven, Anna, and Orlando are all talented musicians, not just comedians. Anna has had a 15-year career on Broadway. Raven was the frontwoman of the Cheetah Girls who performed world tours and sold millions of albums.
Okay.
Orlando, we'll talk about his music career in a bit. This was the Disney Channel's first
Yeah, I think with Orlando Brown, I think his music career didn't. I think Orlando Brown's music career didn't turn out the best like his, like coworkers.
And it was reported to be the highest rating original program in the network's history. 100 episodes total.
I've been selling merchandise since I was about 13. They're all original designs. Shopify has truly allowed me to brand an online.
Averaging over 3 million viewers per episode. The show and cast were nominated for various awards over 50 times. The roaring success of That's So Raven led to Fillmore, where Orlando voiced the main character.
Fillmore, I'm on.
Then the Proud Family movie and TV show where he voiced Sticky Webb.
Well, peep this. I program my patron to pick up.
This was one of my shows too that I used to watch growing up.
Orlando at this point had a wildly successful successful youth acting career for over 10 years.
I remember when I couldn't have none of this stuff, you know what I mean? So to save up and to be able to have and go in and say, you know what, I want that for myself. I have it now.
Orlando was on top of the world, but he had a slip up. He was arrested. In 2007, Orlando was driving through the west side of Houston at 1 a.m. when he was pulled over because his headlights were off.
Oh,
He
shoot.
consented to a search, and the officer found some grass on the driver's side door. He was charged with misdemeanor possession and released on bond. I didn't know what was in the car. That's not what I do. I consider myself a youth activist, he said. I don't want this arrest lingering over my head. I love what I do. Why jeopardize what I built? An honest mistake, a sincere apology. But Disney in 2007 demanded the squeaky clean image of their actors, so the repercussions were brutal. From here, he never worked with Disney ever again. Orlando was
Damn.
always passionate about music, so he pursued it. Instead of going the typical route of signing to a major label and using his Disney fame as leverage, he decided to remain independent.
Youngstar Entertainment, the League Entertainment coming to you soon. You're not talking about M-Law, Youngstar, we out.
Peter Pan was the name of his new single that was an attempt to capitalize on the ringtone rap dance era 2 years after Soulja Boy peaked. At this time, he seemed to have a good outlook on the way it was all going.
Everything is a blessing. I can't complain about that. I'm just happy with my life now.
However, none of his music ever hit Billboard, never earned any certifications, or got any mainstream publicity.
Nah.
He never did any tours and barely did live performances outside of maybe a club appearance or an empty baseball stadium. Other than a Facebook page, I can't even be certain that Youngstar Entertainment is a real business. Sure, some of the songs did get decent YouTube views, but without the support of the music industry, I'd be willing to bet he never made any substantial money from music. Any publicity he got from red carpet events he would use to promote his music,
So what's going on with you? Well, you know, I'm pushing my new single, Peter Pan. It's a brand new dance.
his new sitcom, The Orlando Brown Show,
I wrote The Orlando Brown Show, which is my sitcom. I have a reality show. I have a cartoon. I got a lot of stuff going on.
He promoted these two projects for years, but I could not find any proof that they ever existed. Conspiracy theorists might suggest that he was blackballed and exiled from the entertainment industry because of Disney. Or the more
Yeah, that's what it's basically sounding like. It's basically sounding like he was blackballed because when he got arrested, you know, back then Disney Channel, they always, and I think now, well, Disney in general, they always want, you know, their actors or actresses to have a squeaky clean image. And so it's just like, if you fail to meet that requirement, it's like Disney's just going to let you go. You know, so that's what it's basically sounding like. It's basically sounding like Disney just, you know, just was like, Orlando, we're sorry, we don't need you no more. That's where everyone was a hit. And you could leave, man. We don't need you no more. You got arrested. You got a record now. So we have no use for you no more, man. That's what's basically sounding like. Disney just threw him out on the streets, and that was it.
likely reason is while pursuing an independent career.
And he was in no more Disney Channel shows. I think after that, So Raven. I think so. I think.
For making shows, films, and music, corporations can't make as much money off of you. Therefore, they probably don't want to do business with you.
Yeah.
So maybe these projects did exist, but he couldn't get them off the ground without a substantial amount of cash. His first DUI. In 2011, Brown was driving in Hollywood without a license plate. After pulling him over, the cops suspected he was drunk. And after failing a sobriety test, he was booked in the famous Hollywood station. After failing
Damn.
to appear for court, he became wanted for failing to prove that he enrolled in an alcoholic education class, which then led to another DUI. Clearly, he has a problem with drinking and driving, but he still seemed to be in good spirits.
What happens is when you're young and you're a child star, whatever, you know. Yeah, so, you know, no one's going to believe it right now. My music, I'll stop it because of the Disney thing and everything. But, you know, the fans know I've been trying for years.
So how is he making money? How is he surviving if his music career was failing?
Probably was also Raven
Disney
checks.
stars are rich and set for life. This couldn't be further from the truth. The highest paid Disney stars are looking at maybe $30,000 per episode. There are also no royalty deals. Disney stars don't even get into Disneyland for free.
Damn.
They're paying you for their reruns. So $30K would be like main character money with managers that know how to negotiate.
Okay.
Orlando being a side character, I would say $15,000 per episode with a good deal. 100 episodes, that's $1.5 million over 4 years. On top of animated shows,
That's all right.
It's possible he could have made a few $1 million over his 12-year run, but most children don't have any concept of the money they're making.
See, let me tell
They
you
don't.
something as a kid.
And that's what it's like. You think just because you see these child stars on TV, you think their life is glamorous and peaches and ice cream and all that stuff. Nah, it's not that. You don't know what goes on behind the scenes. Yeah, they may be on TV. Yeah, you know, you may have some inspiration toward that, but it's like things you see on TV isn't real life. TV is just something that we watch for entertainment, but we don't. But when we watch these shows growing up, we don't go behind the scenes to actually figure out what's happening. We're just basically looking at it as, oh, their lives are so great because of what they see, of what we see on TV, and how they're portrayed. And we think that these childhood stars are living a life, and they're making a good amount of money, but it's so much more than that.
You don't know that you're getting paid.
Most of the time, families are poorly managing the money or straight up stealing it. We have
Yeah, and like with these childhood stars, like when you're a kid, you really don't know much. So it's just like when you're a kid making this money. We think it's good, but we don't know that if that person's money is being mismanaged, and that their family is just spending the money just to spend it because they're finally rich. We don't know all that. We just think that they're making good money because they're on TV living the dream. But we don't know if these childhood stars are being taken advantage of from their parents, basically parents or family members, or their managers or accountants. We don't know that
no actual proof.
because we're kids and we don't know better.
It indicates he was struggling. Orlando Brown sentenced to 180 days in jail.
Well, I'm pretty sure Orlando Brown was kind of going broke, probably having to pay like lawyer fees and bail bonds. He was probably going broke.
Just kept evading the courts, failing to pay his DUI fines, and failing to complete his alcohol education class.
Oh, never mind.
When he got out, things got worse. Orlando was outside a 40-year-old woman's apartment in North Hollywood threatening her. She claimed they were acquaintances and he made sexual passes at her, in which she denied, which led him to exploding in rage. Orlando says the woman was stalking him, and he went to the apartment to tell her boyfriend nothing was going on between them. His story doesn't really make any sense, and you can feel this is another drug-induced episode. He managed to land a short cameo in Straight Outta Compton, as well as a lead role in an indie film called Smoke-Filled Lungs. But the big news of 2015 was That's So Raven reunion on The View.
Hey Kyle, can you come out here please? Right now.
So basically, the energy looks like it's still there. It looks like they still got that chemistry.
The link-up was wholesome, and everyone seemed to be positive and happy. Orlando showed off his terrible hand tattoo of the cast,
Ugh.
which Raven loved. But there was a particular question asked on The View that sparked a lot of people's interest.
Who dated the most cast and crew members?
Am I going unbelievable?
I think they're calling me a slut is what's happening. No, it was just we all had a really nice relationship with each other. We're gonna keep it real simple.
Yeah, we did.
This clip seems harmless, but it's pretty obvious that the four cast members all know what Raven was hinting at, but the audience has no idea. We also know this clip was changed in post-production because the promotional clip for the episode had something else in there. So the part where Orlando says, "We used to date,"
Oh,
was
shoot.
used in the promo clip, but cut out of the real episode.
Mm.
Raven did deny the allegations, but only the people who were in the audience that day know what was said. But Orlando.
But the people who watched it on
kept
TV did.
the past.
I mean, was there any resentment in the cast with her being chosen for the lead role after
Oh
the
no,
fact?
because at the time I was dating her at the time.
If he is telling the truth, that would mean that Raven was 15 and Orlando was 13 when they started dating. Since the show officially started filming in 2001, and Orlando said they were already together before the show even started. He took it one step further though.
Oh, well that was in the song, and yes, I did eat the pussy. I ain't gonna lie, I ate the pussy.
At the time, it was hard to tell if he was joking, serious, or delusional. I think it's obvious why he.
See, and that's why with Orlando Brown, we don't know that. We don't know if he's playing, or we don't know if he's telling the truth. And it's tough because when we have Orlando Brown making these allegations, and on top of that, when we have Reverend Simone not giving us a clear-cut story about if her and Orlando used to date, it's like we don't know if it's going to be true because we hear Orlando's side, but we're not hearing Raven's side, and that's just a tough part. We got Orlando Brown, and even though he may be on drugs, and he may do wild antics and say wild things, but when he talks about dating Raven Simone, we kind of do believe it because it's just like they had such a good they had such good chemistry on screen, and they looked like they could have been a cute couple. So like, if they did date, we'll never know. But if they didn't, okay, cool. But if they did, I really want to be surprised. You know, but it's just like it's tough. It's tough that we don't know that, because when people ask Raven-Symoné about it, she's not getting like a clear answer. It's like she's just, you know, like beating around the bush about it. She's not saying yes or no about her and Orlando used to date. And it just leaves us thinking if they did or if they didn't. You know, some people just take Orlando's word for it, but we'll never know.
Wasn't invited to do the That's So Raven reboot, Raven's Home. It's
I didn't really like Raven's Home. I tried to watch it, I couldn't get into it.
He got arrested for striking his girlfriend, which resulted
Wait, what happened?
His first Vlad TV interview, reboot, Raven's Home. It's probably worth mentioning that before this first Vlad TV interview, he got arrested for striking his girlfriend, which resulted in police finding methamphetamine on him. With all the new attention on Orlando from the interview, combined with an alleged drug problem, things got worse.
I don't understand why people are just mad at me because I got to have sex with one handicapped girl. It was one handicapped bitch.
Oh yeah, he's going through a downroad spiral right now.
See, let me tell you something. Stevie Wonder's not really blind. You fell for that the whole time. And I'm white mixed with German. You know, I'm a mother.
It's like this dude has so many different personalities, dude. It's crazy.
Brown at the tip, it was just, I don't know, it was this, what you call it, the areola, yeah. I remember just, the areola.
His follower counts were rising, enabling more of this behavior. Vlad invited him back.
I mean, I told you in the first
There's a clip that went viral.
From here, he got more interviews.
They say, can you explain what about
I ate her.
Okay, that's what they.
I had the bubble of pancakes.
What the hell?
Soundplay. You play, and it records. You can choose exactly what you want it to record, whether it be
Why does this dude Orlando Brown remind me of Cat Williams when he tells his stories?
I went inside the land of the man that wants to go inside if he can, but couldn't do it, man. But I did. I said I could do it and I can.
When you see what you said, what happened?
I'm sure you're thinking, what does Raven have to say about all this?
What the hell is up with that madman Orlando Brown? Last year he had put a video saying he got you pregnant, abortion. What the hell is going on?
Well, you know, the new show, Raven's Home, airs Friday nights at 8 o'clock. So that's what happened. That's what happened there.
Raven won't address the situation or give it any more attention.
Yeah, she won't.
There was one little thing she said last year that had people wondering if she was talking about Orlando.
You know, it's funny, a lot of my relationships I have confidentialities with. So I'm technically not allowed to talk about. I have been in a lot of different kinds of relationships, but my first true love relationship was both pleasurable and miserable and heartbreaking and heartfelt. It was a journey.
How old were you?
That relationship lasted, well, I started in that relationship at 13 years old and it ended at like 20.
She claims to have NDAs for her previous relationships. If that was the case, then Orlando would definitely be violating those terms. However, 13 to 20 was roughly the timeline of her being on That's So Raven. A little before and a little after. Raven being 13 would make Orlando 11 at the time. The stories don't match up perfectly, but some people really believe Orlando is telling the truth despite his obvious shaky mental state. Orlando got a tattoo of Raven on him.
Yeah, because it's like, given like what Patrick just said, given the age of, you know, both Raven-Symoné and Orlando while they were on the show, and Raven talking about how when she was 15, when she started dating, it has to be Orlando, because she's touching on it very well, because they were both on the show around when they were like 13, 15, because I think that Raven-Symoné's like 2 years older than Orlando. So it has to be. She probably did date Orlando, but she don't want to. I guess she doesn't want to address. I guess she doesn't want to address and say clear as day that, oh yeah, I dated Orlando Brown. I guess she doesn't want to say that because I guess she's probably embarrassed and she doesn't want people to clown her. But given the history and given the timeline of the show and the age she just mentioned, and the age where when she was with Orlando doing That's a Raven, just yeah, it has to be Orlando. It's just a coincidence of how her story correlates with the age of them doing the show together. It has to be.
He was about to enter probably his darkest times. He got arrested by some bounty hunters who broke into the home that he was staying at and took him into custody.
Ooh, this one looks rough.
After he got out, he was arrested again for skipping drug court. During the arrest, he also had a meth pipe on him. At this time, he also had a warrant out for domestic battery. A few months later, he would be arrested again, this time for trying to change the locks on the doors of a friend's restaurant. Another weird situation, but this time it landed him in jail for 15 days. After he got out...
Get away from my house, yo.
I'm away from your house, yeah. I'm away.
If I come back over there, I'm gonna knock you the fuck out.
Off your property!
With all these problems stacking up, Orlando's friends and family decided it was best for Dr. Phil to intervene and try to help him. For some reason, nobody in the comments talked about these Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle contacts.
I don't know what that is.
As if it was totally normal.
So now I'm glad to say I'm 4 years sober, and it's been quite a journey.
After this interview, it was very clear how far drugs had taken him. He wasn't able to remember how many kids he had or their ages.
Drugs completely messed this dude up.
Still in the belly. Still in the belly. You know what I mean?
You said the 2-year-old don't know the name because it's still in the belly.
That's because I have a baby on the way as well. I just mentioned
So
that.
the 2-year-old is still in the belly, so that means that that child has been in there for 2 years.
Not necessarily.
Orlando had hit rock bottom, so the only way to go was up. For the next year or so, there wasn't much Orlando content, but he started releasing music consistently, and he looked a lot healthier. And his music actually isn't that bad. Sure, he has some wild conspiracy bars in there, like, I can't believe y'all still think Stevie Wonder is blind. But I mean, in terms of flow and delivery, it's not bad. I wish I could tell you this was the redemption story, but it wasn't. A clip of him, after getting beat up, went viral. Then he would go on manic tirades claiming that he is Michael Jackson's son, and he owns the Neverland Ranch, as well as claiming that he is Will Smith's son.
Hey man, that nigga Michael Jackson, bro. You feel me? That nigga Michael Jackson, bro. That nigga set me up, bro. I'm Trent. I'm your long lost son, Trent. I'm Trent, aka Michael Jackson, motherfucker. The real Will Smith, motherfucker.
He also frequently talks about other rappers being gay because it gets attention. There's a large community of people out there that try to expose rappers for being gay in their private lives.
I know everybody's gay. Trey Songz gay. I've heard about Trey Songz sucking a few dicks in his lifetime. I happen to know Diddy boys.
He went viral for changing his behavior, getting sober, and giving his life to his religion. Fans on the internet hadn't been tapped in with his life too much and probably only remembered him from his Vlad/Dr. Phil episodes. So this seemed like a monumental step, and it is a big step. His life is pretty unpredictable. One day the police are in his house.
And it's crazy because when I was looking at videos, when I thought that Orlando Brown was getting his life together, I was like, okay, Orlando Brown, he's getting his life together, being clean, probably getting off them drugs and all that. But it's like nobody wasn't talking about that. See, it's like with these Disney Channel stars, it's like once these people hit rock bottom, and then when they try to reevaluate their lives, people are just always going to talk about the negative things that person went through, other than the positives. So if Orlando Brown's getting his life together right now, okay, that's good, but nobody's not going to talk about it. People are just going to remember Orlando Brown as the guy who kept getting arrested, missing court dates. He kept being in and out of rehab centers, going on these interviews saying wild things. It's like everybody's always going to focus on the negative over Orlando Brown and not the positive, which is him getting his life together and getting his life to God. Nobody's not going to talk about that. People always talk about the bad other than the good.
The next day he's exposing rappers.
How did he try to kill me?
Then he saw No Jumper appearing to be sober, even though he kind of denies ever being on drugs.
How long you been in recovery for?
Recovery from
Drugs or alcohol?
haven't been in.
Oh, so you don't fuck with that at all? I was kind of the impression.
Oh yeah, nah, bro.
However, conspiracies and wacky live streams aside, he seems to be doing fine these days. Maybe even working at this pizza shop.
Look like Orlando Brown's just chilling.
Orlando is going to continue to have ups and downs. Addiction is a vicious cycle that has even plagued my family. It seems like the drugs and alcohol may have had some permanent effects on his brain, but he's still talented, still funny, and still trying to better himself. And the fact that he's still trying is monumental. We can only hope he has a support system that can prevent things from getting out of control again. And maybe one day we can see an iconic comeback from the Eddie we once knew.
Yeah, so it basically sounds like Orlando Brown's getting his life together. You know, and I really hope that he goes back to the Orlando Brown that we all, you know, knew and loved and always thought was funny because of his character off of That's So Raven. You know, so but it looks like he's getting it looks like he's getting his life together. You know, there would from my opinion, I haven't really heard or seen too much of Orlando Brown doing anything crazy. You know, but it's like when you have an addiction, that just takes control of your body, and it's just like when you have an addiction, that takes control of your whole body, and you don't know it, or you don't want to try to get the help that you need because that addiction is preventing you from doing that. You know, and believe me, I know about that. You know, I know about addiction. You know, off of, you know, I had some experience with it. So it's like having an addiction that takes over your whole life. I mean, it doesn't take over your whole life, but you know, it takes not your life, but it takes control of you as a person, because that addiction is making you get hooked on drugs, get hooked on alcohol, and it's preventing you from not wanting to get the help. So it's like you have to be strong to want to get the help, to want to stop that, to want to have and live a better lifestyle. And that's what it looks like Orlando Brown is doing. You know, like, obviously I'm not saying people are perfect, but you're gonna have ups, you're gonna have downs. But as long as you try to, you know, fight through that addiction and take it step by step by not letting that addiction take control of you, you know, you're a strong individual for that. But that's it for the video. Make sure you guys like, make sure you guys subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.